Hello, thanks for joining me for your June monthly horoscope for the Sun or the Ascendant. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. Every time I drop a video, you'll get an alert. Also, if you'd like to ascend above your zodiac sign forecast and embrace more serious astrology, check out my very special offer. A character analysis and a 12-month forecast, 30% off, will give you searing insights into your future prospects and also help you to understand what makes you tick at a deeper level. This is based on your time, date and place of birth and is totally unique to you. No two charts are the same. Please see the link below for more. Hello Leo, and welcome to your in-depth monthly horoscope for June. The big question the planets are asking of you this month is, how do you see your future? Because we have an annular solar eclipse on the 10th, which really gives you a fabulous opportunity to showcase your hopes for the next 6 months, the reach of the eclipse. But Neptune, the planet of dreams, is very much in evidence this month, and I'm going to guide you through things to see how you can make the most of your opportunities, but also stay aware to how Neptune can cause some mischief. So as this month begins, the Sun, Mercury, the planet of communication, Venus, the planet of love and attraction, and the North Node, which is almost like the societal direction of travel, are all in your sector of friendship, of kinship, of sociability. And I think we could all agree on one thing, that the ability to mix and mingle is something we would be delighted about after the long months of lockdown. But there are some gotchas, not least that Mercury, of course, is in retrograde through to the 22nd. It's going to be in shadow through to the 26th. So the whole of this month, the communication and the opportunities that come from friendships and networking will need to be applied with a degree of care, because obviously when Mercury is retrograde, then we can get cross wires, but we can also get opportunities, and that's one of the things that often gets forgotten with Mercury retrograde. It asks us to mend the things that aren't working quite as well. But in the first week, Mercury is also tangling with the aforementioned Neptune. Now, Neptune for you since 2012 has been in your sector of deep devotion. Also, anything to do with property that's shared or business relationships, those have all been very sensitively underlined during that time. But Mercury is about clarity, particularly in the sign of Gemini, which is buzzy. It's the third zodiac sign. It's ruled by air, so clarity and mental accuracy is something we all can benefit from Mercury. But when Neptune is attending, in other words, forging a 90-degree debilitating angle to Mercury, what we're doing is potentially watering down, because Neptune is in Pisces, a watery zone. We're watering down the logic of Mercury. So the area that's going to require a degree of care, not just at the start of this month with Mercury square with Neptune, but also over the next 6 months, quite frankly, is how do you blend your future hopes and idealism and aspirations with what works practically when Neptune's causing so much mischief potentially in that area. And Neptune causes mischief because it distorts. It heightens the frequency of our compassion. It's brilliant for anything to do with prayer, spirituality, healing. If you do work in the kind of broader field of what I do, you know, you're a psychic or a light worker, you're some kind of therapist, then Neptune moving through the sign of Neptune has been glorious, because it's probably given you a lot of desire to use that care and those very extra perceptive skills in a way which gives you some kind of return as well as helping others, which is lovely. But I think there is a conflict between the two, the logic of Mercury in its retrograde. So you could be finding yourself going over in your mind ways that you used to do things. You could be thinking about old friendships, but some groups of friendships or some friendships themselves could become a little bit foggy and not clear on the back of that particular aspect. However, there's a gorgeous link between the Sun in the sign of Gemini, friendship, and Saturn in your sector of relating. So where it comes very easily, so where you know exactly where you stand with people, you don't have any worries, they're absolutely straight up, this is how they are, how they want to be with you, you feel very secure about it. Those kind of relationships can take a giant step forwards at the start of this month and give you a big uplift of confidence in the process. However, Venus is also forging an absolutely splendid link with Jupiter. Now, Jupiter moved last month into the same zone as Neptune, the sign of Pisces, which it also governs along with Neptune as co-regent. That's great for financial hopes, to be honest. And Venus moves on the 2nd into the sign of Cancer. So that's your 12th house. Now, if you do get to know someone in the first week with these two collaborating so well, it could be that it's going to be a bit of a hush-hush alliance. You may want to keep it confidential between the two of you, at least before you're a little bit more clear about the potential. It's also possible that someone could tell you about a financial opportunity but want you to keep it hush-hush. So it may be something where they share some inside knowledge or just tell you about a job that's upcoming, but they don't want anyone else to know that they've tried to help you in some way. So that's entirely possible too. But also in the first 10 days of this month, Mars, the planet of passion and the planet of impatience, continues its journey through your 12th house. And that has been a complex journey. So if you think back over until the start of this month, the previous 4.5, 5 weeks, I do think some quite turbulent energies may have been coming up at times, and Mars is in opposition with Pluto for this first 10 days. If there is any kind of psychological politics going on in your closest relationships, it could be a bit of a tough hoe this phase of the month. But the great news is that on the 11th, Mars moves into your sign, and that's going to give you a much greater sense of certainty, and some of the anxieties that might wash around earlier in the month could ease a bit, but we can't change the fact that Venus is going to spend the next few weeks from the 2nd in your 12th house. So if there is a relationship that isn't working very well, or you're feeling very nostalgic for someone from your past, you could really grieve that loss, that separation, that breakdown in quite a big way. However, the new moon, which in fact is an annular solar eclipse of the 10th, does bring you potentially back into the moment, and it's going to provide a backdrop for the next 6 months, and it's kind of saying to you, you can go forwards, you can take some giant steps towards those higher aspirations, but you've got to be realistic about the financial side of it. And with Neptune in the mix on this eclipse as much as it was on Mercury, and with Mercury still twisting backwards, there could be a little bit of confusion. Your sums may keep changing, you may get different information, things can be quite fluid. Then on the 14th, Saturn, which has been in a square with Uranus since the 2nd week of January, that becomes an exact 90-degree connection. Now, I don't think necessarily that day will throw up anything more, because I think it's been a very active aspect for us all this year. For you, Saturn is about relating, Uranus is about your professional situation. I think it may be around a relationship with someone older, like a father figure or a boss, or conversely someone younger than you, where either you or they is pushing back against how things have mainly been. Because your sign is very much about continuity. That's something that a lot of Leos may not fully appreciate. You're a fixed sign. So yes, you're a fire sign. Yes, you can be very dramatic. Yes, you can have huge charisma, but you do pretty well like the routines you know well. So Uranus, particularly around your work, has been nibbling away at you all year, or someone close to you has been nibbling away in your other ear, saying, look, you need to have the confidence to change what you've been doing, revitalise your approach, reset your stall, and approach wider life in a fresh way. And if you're resisting that, I think the discussion around that situation could come up to the boil on the 14th. But on the 20th, the sun moves into Cancer. Now, this is a more reflective location for the sun for you. It joins up with Venus, but also on the same day, Jupiter goes retrograde. Jupiter goes retrograde every year for 4 months, nothing new there. But as it goes retrograde, Mercury goes forwards on the 22nd and Neptune goes backwards on the 25th. And, you know, it's all going on, isn't it? But from the 20th to the 26th, the sun actually forges a brilliant link to Jupiter. So remember I told you before that someone could quietly try to help you. They may give you some advice. They may have a great insight. They may be a financial advisor. What you do behind the scenes in this last 10 days of the month is just as crucial as what you do more obviously earlier in the month. It's a very lucky link between the sun and Jupiter. It's a trine, 120 degrees. It's very enabling. So if you're doing research or you're trying to understand the politics in a situation, I feel some information is going to come to you from the 20th for a week, which really helps you. So even though Jupiter goes backwards through to the 10th of October, which isn't particularly helpful, it can slow the economy down, for example. I think for you, this is just asking you not to get too caught up in Jupiter's innate optimism, but that doesn't mean to say you shouldn't generally be expansive about trying to remodel how you have your role in life, because that's essentially what Uranus is doing in your 10th solar house. Now on the 24th there's a full moon, and it is the most psychological full moon of the whole year in a way, because we could reverse it round and put the moon into the sign of Cancer and we could put the sun in Capricorn, but then that means the sun is okay in Capricorn, but the moon is absolutely very happy in Cancer, whereas the moon isn't very happy in Capricorn. So this is the most psychological, most difficult in some ways full moon of the whole year. If you're someone who's very proud, needs to be admired at all times, doesn't like to admit any vulnerability at all, and some Leos can be like that, I'm not saying all, this could be a tricky one. However, Jupiter is supportive. It's saying if you're open to knowledge, so that again, that information knowledge thread, then this full moon can teach you a lot over the following 2 weeks. Neptune going retrograde on the 25th just says, continue. You know, the Neptune theme of this month, it splatters Neptune the first week. It hits the solar eclipse on the 10th for 6 months, and now it goes into retrograde. So all of that's just saying, be very realistic about long-term financial planning and do delve down deep to get to the neat detail. Don't make assumptions. Don't, get too caught up on dreams for how you'd like it to be. Stay very grounded to reality. However, Mars moving into your sign on the 11th of this month is fantastic, because it does give you a lot more drive, a lot more certainty. Your physical vitality will be improved by that, even if it's challenged a bit with the Sun and Venus in the 12th house. But by the 26th, Mars goes into an opposition with Saturn. If there is a relationship issue, it might not be a kind of one that's grievous. It might be like niggles, the odd sort of outbreak of irritation. If there is something that is driving that sort of balance in your relationship world, it could really come to the fore from the 26th to the 30th. And it's possible an argument may happen. Now, you might be someone who likes to avoid arguments. Sometimes arguments can be a good thing, because it doesn't have to be about shouting. It can be about saying how we feel or challenging where the other person is coming from. So but there could be some kind of resistance that you meet around something you want to do. So just be aware of that across those days. Also in week 3, Venus is in opposition with Pluto. Someone could entice you in some way, and they can seem jolly nice. If you're in a relationship already, just be aware that there's usually a catch with Venus opposite Pluto. Not always. It gets much more difficult to listen to our logic because we're so driven by desire. But Mars in your own sign is a very strong placement, and so for the last 20 days of this month, it really is giving you a lot of support, and then it's going to be with you in total for 6 weeks. I love that. So this chart has lots of goodnesses. You know, that angle between Saturn and the Sun in the first week is very, very helpful. But I do feel that being in touch with your vulnerabilities is part and parcel of how you're going to negotiate this month. And if you can move forward slowly but surely, embracing the fact that progress is entirely possible, but you need to be aware that Neptune can just distort everybody's reality. And if you can just keep it very, very real and keep your feet very much on the ground, check all the facts, there's still a heck of a lot of progress to be made. And I think if there are some people who leave your world because they're no longer worthy of you, there are going to be new people emerging in your world delightfully in the next 6 months. Thank you.